The 1970s gave us trucks that still cause big reactions. A few models sold in massive numbers, some had power far ahead of their time, and others refused to retire even after 50 years. Restored ones now cost more than luxury cars. Something about these heavy haulers made them legends, but the reason is deeper than most people know. The 1970s heavy hauler revolution. The 1970s introduced significant changes to heavy-duty trucking. The oil crisis of 1973 forced manufacturers to reconsider fuel efficiency. Engine technology advanced through wider use of turbocharging, which increased power output without major changes in displacement. Detroit Diesel, Cummins and Caterpillar dominated American engine markets. European manufacturers, including Scania, Volvo and Mercedes-Benz, expanded their presence. Turbocharged diesel engines grew rapidly in popularity during the 1970s, but many fleets continued using naturally aspirated engines well into the decade. Sleeper cabs grew larger to accommodate long-distance drivers. British manufacturers faced particular challenges during this period. The Road Vehicles Lighting Regulations 1971 updated lighting requirements, though they did not force major redesigns of entire truck models. The Heavy Commercial Vehicles Act 1973 increased maximum gross weights from 32 tonnes to 44 tonnes for articulated vehicles. This legislation prompted redesigns across British truck ranges. ERF, Seddon Atkinson, Foden and Leyland competed domestically while American imports gained market share. Starting with number 10, we have GMC Astro 95. General Motors introduced the GMC Astro 95 in 1969, with full production spanning the 1970s. The cab-over design featured a 95-inch BBC measurement. This configuration allowed maximum trailer length within legal limits. The Astro 95 used Detroit Diesel 8V71 engines producing 318 horsepower standard. The truck featured a tilt cab mechanism for engine access. This design proved revolutionary for maintenance efficiency. GMC manufactured approximately 40,000 Astro 95 units between 1969 and 1987. The Astro 95 was widely used in general freight and regional haul applications. Though it was not the dominant heavy haul choice, operators appreciated the visibility from the elevated cab position. Turning capability varied by wheelbase, and no single official turning radius figure applied to all Astro 95 configurations, superior to conventional designs. However, ride quality suffered compared to long-nose competitors. Drivers reported harsh impacts over rough surfaces due to minimal wheelbase ahead of front axle. The Astro 95 remains popular among collectors. Restored examples sell for $45,000 to $85,000 depending on condition. The distinctive cab design makes identification easy. Parts availability improved recently through aftermarket suppliers. At number 9 we have Ford WT9000 Louisville line. Ford introduced the W series trucks in 1966, with the WT9000 representing the heavy haul variant. Production continued throughout the 1970s with minimal design changes. The WT9000 featured conventional cab design with long hood configurations. Cummins N TC350 engines provided 350 horsepower. The truck used Fuller RT 12.513 13-speed transmissions. The Louisville assembly plant built various Ford heavy trucks for decades, but WT9000 production tapered off well before the mid-1990s. The WT9000 featured steel frame rails measuring 11.5 inches deep. Suspension options included Hendrickson walking beam or multi-leaf spring configurations. Front axle ratings reached 20,000 pounds. Rear tandem axles handled up to 46,000 pounds. These specifications enable gross combination weights exceeding 80,000 pounds. Ford's market share in heavy trucks declined during the 1980s. Production cost exceeded profit margins. Ford eventually exited the heavy-duty truck market in 1997. At number 8, we have Diamond Rio Raider. Diamond Rio Motors formed in 1967 through merger of Diamond T and REO Motor Truck Company. The Raider model appeared in 1972, targeting owner-operators. The truck featured distinctive chrome trim and customization options. Standard engines included Cummins NTC 290, producing 290 horsepower. Diamond Rio is estimated to have built between 4,000 and 6,000 Raider trucks before the 1975 bankruptcy. The company reorganized as Diamond Rio Trucks Incorporated. The Raider was known for solid build quality, though its high price limited its market reach. However, surviving examples demonstrate solid construction. Current collector interest remains modest compared to major brands. Restored Raiders sell for $28,000 to $55,000. Enthusiasts rely on new old stock discoveries and custom fabrication. At number 7 we have White Western Star 4964. White Motor Company founded Western Star as a new division in 1967. The 4964 model launched in 1974, specifically for severe service applications. The truck featured aluminum cab construction reducing weight by 600 pounds. Cummins engines in the 350 to 450 horsepower range were most common in the 1970s, while higher output engines appeared later in limited applications. CAT 3408 engines provided alternatives. The 4964 used heavy-duty frame rails exceeding competitor specifications. Western Star manufactured trucks in Kelowna, British Columbia. The 4964 featured set-back front axle positioning. This design improved weight distribution with heavy front attachments. Suspension systems incorporated rubber walking beam or multi-leaf configurations. The model gained particular popularity in Canada and Alaska. Harsh climate operations demanded durability. The 4964's construction withstood extreme conditions. Production continued into the early 1980s with incremental improvements. Current values range from $35,000 to $75,000 for restored examples. At number 6 we have Marmon Model 57P. Marmon Motor Company introduced the Model 57P in 1974. The 57P featured aluminum construction throughout. Marmon's aluminum construction reduced weight by roughly 1,000 to 2,000 pounds compared to steel cab competitors. Cummins KTA 600 engines producing 600 horsepower became available by 1976. This engine option established the 57P as a performance leader. Fuller RTO 12,513 13-speed transmissions handled the power. Marmon produced approximately 1,400 Model 57P trucks during the 1970s. Limited production created exclusivity. Base prices started at $42,000 in 1974. Custom paint and luxury interiors distinguished these trucks. The 57P generally delivered fuel economy in the 4 to 5 miles per gallon range. Aluminum construction and aerodynamic refinements contributed to efficiency. Many shops refused Marmon repairs. This limited the model's appeal outside certain regions. Current collector values reach $90,000 to $140,000 for exceptional examples. At number 5 we have Freightliner FLC-120. Freightliner Corporation introduced the FLC-120 in 1977 as their flagship conventional model. The designation indicated 120-inch BBC measurement. This longer hood accommodated larger engines, including Cummins KTA 600. The FLC 120 featured all aluminum cab construction. aerodynamic improvements included sloped hood and integrated air deflector. Exact production numbers for the FLC-120 are not publicly documented, though overall volumes were lower than those of Kenworth and Peterbilt during the same period. The FLC-120 established design principles that influenced subsequent decades. The raised rail frame design became industry standard. Current restoration values range from $55,000 to $95,000. At number 4, we have International Transstar 4070A. International Harvester introduced the Transstar series in 1975, replacing the Fleetstar. The 4070A represented the top specification level. The truck featured cab-over design with 90-degree tilt mechanism. Detroit diesel 8V, 92 engines producing 435 horsepower. Cummins NTC 400 served as alternative. The Transstar used Spicer 13-speed transmissions. Visibility from the cab-over position suited urban delivery and construction. The tilt cab mechanism weighed 1,450 pounds. Manual operation required 2 people for safety. The company faced financial difficulties during the early 1980s. A 6-month strike in 1979 damaged dealer relationships. Market share declined from 18% in 1975 to 12% by 1981. Current Transstar values remain modest at $22,000 to $48,000. At number 3 we have Mack RS700L. Mack Trucks introduced the RS700L in 1977. This model preceded the famous Superliner but incorporated similar design philosophy. The RS700L featured conventional cab with long hood. Mack's own End 676 engine provided 350 horsepower. The E9500 V8 engine, delivering 500 horsepower, became available in 1978. The truck used Mack MaxiTorque T 2180 18-speed transmissions. This gearbox became legendary for durability. Production reached approximately 6,200 units between 1977 and 1981. The RS700L targeted Australian and American heavy haul markets. The model influenced subsequent Mack designs, including the Superliner, introduced in 1977, and Titan, introduced in 1990. Restored examples command $75,000 to $125,000. At number 2 we have Peterbilt 359. Peterbilt Motors introduced the 359 in 1967, with production continuing throughout the 1970s and beyond. The model became Peterbilt's most successful design. Total production exceeded 40,000 units between 1967 and 1987. Caterpillar 3408 engines producing 425 horsepower represented popular specifications. Fuller RTO 12513 13-speed transmissions became standard. Hand assembly processes at the Newark, California facility permitted attention to detail. Restored examples regularly sell for $120,000 to $180,000. Finally, at number 1 we have Kenworth W900A. Kenworth Motor Truck Company introduced the W900A in 1974, replacing the W900. Production continued through 1982 when the W900B replaced it. The W900A featured refined styling with flatter hood panels and rectangular headlights. Cummins engines from 350 to 600 horsepower powered the W900A. The truck used Fuller transmissions in 10, 13 and 15 speed configurations. The W900A featured aluminum cab construction, reducing weight. However, steel cabs remained available for customers preferring traditional construction. Restored examples command $110,000 to $195,000.